Think my race ruined your family? Enjoy the results of the genetic testing. Short version. At my son's birth, my ex-partner's mom told me that I'd ruined their family by having a kid with her son, and tainting their family line. We're both white, but they're from a neighboring country that they pride themselves on. They showed themselves to be really vile racists in general. I'm glad we aren't family anymore, and his dad walked out a few years ago too, so the trash took itself out. Cut to yesterday. My son got the results of our genetic test kits. He got as a present. He's interested in the TikToks of people seeing where they come from. Me 81 of the background they're so precious about. No trace of the genetic profile they hate so much. My son 53, with around 16 of a background that they hate. Guess it wasn't me that was doing any polluting. The very first thing my son did was send his grandmother the results, and obviously he has no idea of what she said at his birth, but man, that has to have hurt her a little. My wife's family is very racist. She is not, thankfully. We ran the DNA out of curiosity. My family? Scandinavian, Irish, British white as snow. Her family? 8 African American. Yeah, I lolled hard and ensured I was in the room when her dad heard this. Best money I ever spent. Will they even understand this? They do not sound bright. Reverse card deployed. Smells Balkan. These type of people will never change and will remain bigoted regardless of any proof you put in front of them. At least you can get some satisfaction out of it for yourself. Sounds like they are idiots and will probably still blame you and not believe the results. My genetic testing showed a small of African DNA, which agrees with family legends. What's great is that my bigoted uncles and aunts, who refuse to accept that maybe their grandma was not very white, are twice as black. My great-grandfather was mixed indigenous white and racist towards blacks. Apparently he tolerated light-skinned black. All of his children married black people and those children married black people. I love that his family got browner with each generation. Send them a test, and dare them to take it. My cousins and I did the tests. It was a blast. We were comparing our different percentages of different groups. Honestly, some were surprising. But your ex's family will likely say you forged the results rather than admit that they are whatever group they hate. They have to continue making you the bad guy or start hating themselves, not likely. Genetics do not always work as expected. There is always room for a few surprises. I am more German than either of my parents. It is because I inherited most of what German they are from both sides. Had to re-read this, but smiled afterwards. That's got a sting. Yep, all racists should test themselves and disclose. Eye-opener LOL. My partner's dad hated Jews. They did testing after his death and found some Jew. But it wasn't from mom. I didn't understand what the results were and what the percentages were for in the conversation. You guys are Armenian and they are Serbians, aren't you? So long racial purity. Most racists, if you genetically tested them, would want to murder you because the results would show they're not as pure as they think they are. Our results were nearly identical in makeup, except that cute little 2 African he's got. So much for that Cherokee blood his mother is so proud of. My daughter had it done because she wanted to know if she was racially diverse. I explained that half her family never left the island that is Scotland. Good luck. Poor kid, her DNA is boringly snowy at all the levels. However, a year later, she gave me a 35-year-old sister through my deadbeat dad. So I guess in this case the search for race popped up a whole new person. So I'd put that in the win category. Gotta love it. You bekinder Besselant dude, you've got to share the nationalities at play here. I'm so curious who these modern-day Burmanch are. Are they Czech? The best petty revenge is one done in all innocence. I think we know the fun you can have buying that bunch DNA tests for Christmas. Get them ones attached to family search sites so they can meet. Almost as satisfying as finding out that my one African DNA came from the southern, racist side. I just wish my POS uncle was alive so I could tell him. I hope it haunts him in hell. My hobby is genealogy. One day at the genealogy library, I heard someone laughing because she'd found a connection. Imagine the next horrified word out of her: black. Black? The likelihood that this connection was one of hers would have to be further investigated. And I investigate all possible connections. Do you know how many Maria Garcias there are? But I loved her reaction and hoped that was one of hers. OMG, that's an Uncle Ruckus moment. I am having flashbacks to ancient civilization where we cared more about bloodlines rather than people's happiness and love for each other. People like this use the phrase wrong kind of white unironically and don't see a thing wrong with it. Obviously, there is only one race, and it's the human. Genetic testing as it is offered today is not really great at offering information on the racial category some people make up for a multitude of reasons. This whole "I'm better than you because all my race is, and always has been," ridiculous. Underneath we're all the same. It won't matter. Racism is in the mind. Just a tool for people who need to feel superior to love themselves. I want to do this so bad with my in-laws. My mill isn't as bad, but my fill is vile and pass down some of it. I want to fuck with their minds. OMG, I had a similar issue with my ex-FIL telling me how I ruined that family because they are all full Korean. Joke's on him, because they are not. They are also part Japanese. Someone on my dad's side of the family did a 23andMe thing that showed 9 African DNA. Not a big deal. My mom told her dad, who said, "You tainted your blood with that." He was a cop who quit when they were giving in to the blacks in the 60s or 70s. I don't hold any love for him anymore if he thinks that I am tainted. I hope the dad-grandmother in this story feel like shit, but I also hope the kid gets to know love and not hate from them. You're both white, so it isn't racism, it's called endogamy. This type of revenge karma is truly the best. No NA princess stories, though I have learned siblings from same parents can have very different DNA. My DNA is every continent except Australia and North America. It is very interesting that a sister who looked very Asian as a child is 50% Scottish. Asian shows up in my DNA and very little Scotch. And I look white mostly. It is very fascinating. Both parents are from the southeast. And of course most of the rest of the world. You go back far enough, we are all related. Got to love DNA. Cuts the bull right out. My racist MIL has always been very precious about a supposed Scandinavian royal ancestry. Even gave one of her kids this royal name. Did the ancestry thing, both me and DH. Not only is the royalty thing not real, turns out they have no DNA from that area at all. I do, though. This was an underwhelming and disappointing red NGL. Just some generic and non-specific numbers that gave no context in any way, shape, and/or form. These kinds of tests worry me. Remember when there was a free app to make your pics look older or younger? It led to the facial recognition app. Now, say you want an app for DNA recognition. How would you convince enough people to send their DNA to get a statically accurate sample? My ancestry pointed out I'm from Doggerland. I'm such a rare white person, my point of origin no longer exists. Does this mean I'm a minority? Yeah man, this happened. Who cares? Go back far enough and we're all African anyway.